Welcome to Let the Quran Speak. I'm Aisha, your host. The Globe and Mail quoted that the book, The Muslimah Who Fell to Earth, Personal Stories by Canadian Muslim Women, presents a kaleidoscopic view of the Quranic interpretation, marriage and family, the role of women, and experiences of Islamophobia and tolerance. Does this book successfully achieve this? How does this book shed light into the challenges and successes of Canadian Muslim women in today's political climate? Is it worth a read? Let's sit down and get Dr. Shabir's thoughts on this book. Welcome to the show, Dr. Shabir.
Pleasure to be on.
So I have to say, when I Googled this book, it didn't really seem to fit the Dr. Shabir books that we normally review. So what attracted your attention to this book?
Well, the fact that it is about Muslim women, the title is the Muslimah Who Fell to Earth. So Muslimah is the Arabic word for Muslim, a Muslim woman. Mm-hmm. So that makes it very contemporary and very Canadian. It's people want to know where's the woman's voice in Islam. So it is a book that compiles stories of Muslim women in Canada, and for that reason I thought it's very appropriate for our show.
Perfect, rightly so. So can you share a little, what are some of the common themes that because I understand that the book weaves stories of 21 women together, so a little bit about what you found with the book.
Yeah, the editor, Saima Hussein, didn't write much, just a couple of pages by way of preface or introduction to the stories. And what I found interesting is that there are details about women and their activities in Canada, Muslim women, that we are hardly aware of. I wasn't aware until I read this, that the first mosque in Canada was established, well, we knew that the first mosque was established in Edmonton, but I didn't know that it was a Muslim woman who gathered the first $5,000 by her active efforts in the community to make it possible for that mosque to be constructed in the late 1930s. And then it was, when that mosque was to be moved to a park, to Fort Edmonton Park, to dedicate that mosque as a historic building, it was again a Muslim woman who was active at the forefront to make that all happen. In fact, there were $75,000 to be raised just to move the mosque, because they were going to rebuild and move this historic building to that park. That was the cost, and it was a Muslim woman who spearheaded the mission to gather that money and also to overcome the objections to dedicating this as a historical site, a historical building. So other indications in the introduction by Saima Hussein outlines the other indications outline the important contributions that Muslim women have been making to Canada on the whole and to the Muslim community in particular. And I think this is information that Muslims need to be aware of.
So is it, the way it's organized, is it more, and the way the stories of the different Muslim women are covered, is it more from a religious lens, or do you think it's more of a lived experience that she's trying to highlight?
It's a lived experience, and there are many different stories. There are 21 women whose stories are given here. One of these women had appeared in our show, Zunaira Ishaq, speaking about her journey with niqab. The title of the book, The Muslimah Who Fell to Earth, is also the title of one of the essays within this book, the story of a woman, Munira McLean, who had actually come from the United Kingdom. She married a Quebec man, and she therefore came to settle with him in Montreal. At that time, there were only a few Muslims in Montreal, so she tells her story about the difficulties navigating a new country, being a very part of a very minority, and some of the looks she got from people because she didn't fit the profile of a Muslim, though she was wearing traditional Muslim dress. So it's a wide variety of stories. The women come from many different parts of the world, from Southeast Asia, from Syria, from Egypt, from Ethiopia, from Indonesia. They represent many different leanings and followings within the Islamic faith. There are some who, like Munira McLean, is a Sufi. There are persons who follow various inclinations. There are two persons who are of the Ahmadiyya community. There is one from the Ismaili community, at least one. So
it looks like it's all-encompassing and a holistic approach.
It's a wide variety, yes. Some of the women wear a head cover, most do not. One particular woman wears the face cover, Zunera Ishaq, famous for that by now. You ask if it's from a religious perspective, and not all of the articles are of a religious nature. One of them is shockingly apparently anti-religious, and I couldn't get far enough into it to find out what is the point of it. It is entitled Letters to Rumi, and for some odd reason the author felt it within her rights to use vulgarities in her description, and it seems that she has some resentment for Rumi, but due to the profanities in the article, I just stopped reading after 2 pages and a quarter. So that's an interesting article to be collected in a book like this, because the rest of them, I've read most of the stories, many of them are very interesting, and most of them show the women having a strong inclination or attachment with Islam, of course in varying interpretations. One of the articles that I really enjoyed reading was the one about this sister who settled in Winnipeg, where it was all cold and damp. Well, cold and maybe even dry. But she used such picturesque descriptions. She shows herself to be a real accomplished writer. And when she quoted Robert Louis Stevenson, it all made sense, because I thought, okay, it's on in the same
into the image,
the same ballpark. Yeah.
I'm just wondering, I want to go a little bit back to the one criticism that you had, maybe you have others, but the point that you made about one of the stories being anti-religious. What would you say to someone who might just argue and say, well, perhaps they're trying to make a point with the vulgar language and trying to, I don't know, challenge and change the conversation? What would you say to that? Well,
I don't know. I would like to contrast that with another story by Maria Cruz, who suffers from 2 disabilities. One, she is blind, and 2, she has physical mobility issues as well. So she carries herself around in a wheelchair. She says in her article that she cusses a lot. She is admitting this, but she says that, and that is due to her, struggling with her disabilities. At times, things don't seem to go right, and she uses foul language. But she says that when she does that, she hopes that nobody would know that she's a Muslim. In fact, generally, she doesn't pass for a Muslim because she doesn't fit a sort of stereotype. She doesn't wear certain types of traditional clothing and so on, and people don't recognize her as a Muslim. And in fact, when they come to know that she's a Muslim, this seems to come as a surprise. So when she cusses, she's glad that nobody knows that she's a Muslim at that time. Well, that attitude, honest as it is, it shows that one acknowledges that I do wrong, but I know that it is wrong. And in Islamic thinking, if you're doing wrong, but you acknowledge that you are wrong, you're still in the right, in that you can
owning
still
up to it.
Owning up to it. But if you feel at liberty to, openly and without hesitation use such language, whether man or woman, it doesn't seem very. It seems anti-religious, especially now that she seems to be railing against Rumi, and why she feels the necessity to do that is not so very clear, because Rumi is well respected by both Muslims and non-Muslims as a highly spiritual person, and then to use the kind of language she uses, railing against him, it doesn't seem very appropriate.
So would you recommend this read then, knowing some of the criticisms that you're bringing forward? Would you recommend it to other people to read, and if so, what age range?
Yeah, well, it's a good read for, I suppose, for teenagers and up. The stories are very interesting. There is a story about this one writer who no suitable boy could be found for her, because she grew up in Canada. She's of Pakistani origin, and her relatives worked hard to bring this suitor or for that suitor to meet her or bring her to meet some suitor abroad. And in every case, there was a cultural mismatch between her and the suitor, or some other problem. And in fact, this reflects a kind of a Bollywood theme. You can easily see a movie being produced along those lines. But it also reveals, on the more serious side, the difficulties that young people have today in finding suitors for themselves. If they grew up in Canada, they have a Canadian culture, and there's also the culture of the parents. Sometimes there's a mismatch in how to find a suitable mate in this circumstances. It's a challenge that Muslims need to work to get over. In terms of recommending the book, I do have another hesitation. One is from a writer who has produced almost like a case file on her divorce issues with her husband, and it's a very one-sided. Although I sympathize with her, and I don't want any woman to suffer in the way that she describes herself to have been suffering, but at the same time, she shows no awareness that this is an entirely one-sided report about how things went between herself and her husband. In fact, the way she paints her husband, one would say that this is a husband from hell, it seems it's not a very credible picture of a person, and one thinks that maybe he has a comeback to this, and one wants to know, okay, what might he have said
so
in
more
response?
of a balanced approach.
One would like to see a more balanced approach, because when we read things, we don't want things to challenge our intelligence. We want to see that things
I think you've definitely spiked my interest in wanting to pick up that book. So thank you very much, Dr. Shabir.
You're welcome.
Hey YouTube, we hope you benefited from this video. If you liked it, or if you didn't, let us know in the comments below. And if you're interested in learning more, check out some of our other videos. And don't forget to subscribe so you can get new videos every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday.